Jimmy Fallon is apologizing to his staff tonight after accusations by former and current staffers of a toxic work environment at The Tonight Show. In a Rolling Stone piece, some of the claims involved the host screaming at his staff, drinking at work, and a high turnover rate due to mental health issues.
Well, it doesn't seem like there's anything funny about this. What's going on at The Tonight Show? 16 current and former staffers of The Tonight Show have accused Jimmy Fallon of fostering a hostile workplace. Christy Lee Iandoli, the journalist who published the bombshell report, spoke to CNN about what she uncovered. Watch.
From the 2 current and 14 former employees who I spoke to on the record, they said that a lot of their mistreatment comes from the top. So the alleged behavior from Fallon trickles down to, their managers and so on and so forth. They spoke to me a lot about, these, what they call Jimmy's good days, what they call Jimmy's bad days, and his mood kind of dictating the vibe of the whole day, of the whole show, snapping at crew members, not having a lot of patience with people, and the erraticness of, that's what toxicity is, the good and the bad that comes with that. And then how that over the years has impacted their mental health as well.
Yeah, the examples here are specific, so let's run them down for you. According to most employees who spoke to Rolling Stone, it's common knowledge behind the scenes that Fallon's temperament, mood, treatment of staffers is indeed erratic. These employees say they've witnessed Fallon snap at crew members, express irritation over the smallest things, berate and belittle staffers out of frustration. 3 former employees say that he berated them in front of other colleagues and crew members. Again, Rolling Stone with the details here. 2 employees say they saw Fallon seemingly inebriated at work. That was in 2017. Another 2 employees say on separate occasions in 2019 and 2020, they thought they smelled alcohol on Fallon's breath when they entered an elevator with him during the workday. According to 8 former employees, 8. Fallon's behavior seemed to be dependent on if he appeared to be hung over from the night before. Now, 1 employee says depending on Fallon's mood, it felt like his notes and feedback could be passive aggressive, personal insults, as opposed to constructive criticism. They say he would write comments like, "Are you okay? Seriously, do you need help?" Several of Fallon's employees suffered, as we mentioned, mental health issues during their time working on the show. 7 former employees say it was commonplace to hear people joking about wanting to kill themselves, and that they would refer to guest dressing rooms in the office as crying rooms, because that's where they would go to let out their emotions when they were upset with their alleged mistreatment. Iandoli, the author there, contacted many employees of The Tonight Show while investigating the story, but none of them had good things to say about the workplace at The Tonight Show. Rolling Stone contacted more than 50 Tonight Show employees, past, present, during the reporting for the story. After reaching out to representatives for Fallon and NBC, Rolling Stone reached out to an additional 30 current and former staffers. While many of them praised Fallon's immense talent, comedic gifts, not a single one agreed to speak on the record or had positive things to say about working on The Tonight Show. Now, what about the response to this bombshell report? Jimmy Fallon apologized to his staff on an all-hands Zoom call. Let's watch Iandoli describe how that went down.
I spoke to 2 current staff members who were in a Zoom call with Jimmy and the current showrunner, Chris Miller. They told me that Jimmy apologized. He said he was sorry. He said that, Chris Miller is going to continue to be the showrunner for the rest of the, his time at The Tonight Show. And yeah, he apologized. He didn't really deny anything, and he apologized for, I don't know what the apology was for. He didn't get specific in it, but the people who I did speak to who were on the call said that they felt like it was earnest and that it was coming from, a genuine place.
So I guess apology accepted there, although they said it lacked the details. This felt a little bit like Ellen 2.0. It felt a little bit like that. Cenk, you first, what do you make of this and the response by Jimmy Fallon and NBC?
Yeah, first reaction is late night shows still exist? Okay, but once we get beyond that, look, this story has two components. One is specifically about Jimmy Fallon. The other is about a much larger cultural phenomenon. So on Jimmy Fallon, the things that I look at, because sometimes these stories come out and they're a little nitpicky, or sometimes they're just hatchet jobs by people who left and and didn't get along with others, et cetera, right? But so what I look for is, yes, don't tell me there was 2 employees out of 200 or something. Tell me, did you really ask everybody? And in this case, they say that they asked 80 different staffers, and not one of them defended Jimmy Fallon personally. Ooh, that's pretty telling. But then what's even more telling is 9 out of 9 showrunners did not say one positive thing about Jimmy Fallon in terms of his personality, the work environment, et cetera. Now, if you don't know, showrunners are the top people. They're the executive producers in television. They run the show, right? They're in charge, and they work obviously with the host and lead the program. Now, the reason why they're more relevant in this case is not because, they're the showrunners, they're more important. No, it's because they're the most likely to support the host because they're part of management, right? But even they're not supporting him. So that is pretty devastating, okay? Now, but to me, that's the less important part of the story. Okay, Jimmy Fallon, good guy, bad guy, drinking problem, not drinking problem, that's okay. It is what it is, and that's the issue they gotta deal with. To me, what's more interesting is old culture versus new culture. Because I think that probably Jimmy Fallon thought this wasn't that big a deal. Why? Because for those of you who don't know, back in the day, as in until a couple of years ago, in entertainment and media, you had some of the most vicious work environments in all of corporate America, in all industries. It was common accepted practice for the people at the top to be like super aggressive, yell, belittle, embarrass, humiliate people that worked under them. That was considered perfectly normal. Now, when younger generation that is not at all used to that are used to the opposite, go into that kind of work environment, they're like, whoa, what is this, right? And so there's a giant culture clash. In this particular story, I think where that shows itself is, yeah, the employees going, I can't believe what's happening. But more importantly, both NBC and Jimmy Fallon thinking, what's the big deal? This is what we've been used to our whole lives. It got done to us, and now we're doing it to you. And now all of a sudden it's a big deal. Look, I'm assuming that based on the reporting of this happening for year after year. Those 9 showrunners span over 9 years. That means, by the way, he's going through a showrunner every single year. That's another sign of a significant problem in the network. And yet nothing's done about it because the people at the top thought that it was normal. That's my sense of it. Mondale, what do you think?
Money over people, man. This is a perfect story. And I think you hit it right on the head, Jane. This is absolutely what's going on. We're literally sitting here listening to people scream about having crying rooms that are literally guest dressing rooms. Think about the irony of that. Like guests, you don't treat guests bad, but you got your employees, people that live in his house, that work in his house, having to go in those rooms to cry about the way that their top is treating them. This is absolutely disgusting behavior, if we're honest. And yes, it isn't old and new, but the idea that we should be treating workers, people who write the very jokes that makes you filthy rich, Jimmy, you're treating them this way is unbelievable. And NBC is not like, they're not, their hands are dirty as well. They're not cleaning the situation, because how can you go through 9 executive directors in 9 years and not understand that there's something toxic in the culture? The idea that 80 people knew it and nobody at NBC at the top knew it, they knew it. Like you said, they were okay with it because the show was making money. It's a money driver for them, and they can care less about people because people can be replaced probably at a lower rate because they got less experience, and then they can keep making more money.
And I know you said, people can be replaced, but don't you think it's magnified in this case? How many late night hosts are there? There's not that many. And so he's viewed as, in a sense, irreplaceable. But these people went to HR. They talked about suicidal ideation. I mean, that's a lot here. And I think you're exactly right. He's a cash cow for them. Either he's a great actor or he really is sorry. At least that's the reporting. They said he sounded sincere, but what's going to change? Because it didn't seem like, I mean, Jimmy's not going anywhere, not even to rehab if there's something else going on there. No confirmation of that, but that reporting. But it's just, it's bizarre. I think Cenk's right too about the cultural shift. If you line up Jimmy Fallon's age and look at where he came up, and a lot of comedians have a biting sense about them, but then some are great guys. Okay, not all of them are assassins, but this is perhaps a wake-up call, but I don't know what's going to change here. I think next there'll be retaliation. I'll give you the last word, Cenk.
Yeah, look, when I was coming up in media, and now it's been a minute, right? That kind of behavior was, I can't emphasize enough how normal it was. I remember an executive producer on a show that I worked with. I mean, she'd rip people's heads off in public and just totally humiliate them in front of everyone. And everybody thought that was Tuesday. Now, if you do that, you're in a world of trouble these days, right? And you know what's more correct? Today, okay? So look, sometimes people can be overly sensitive and you gotta get the job done, right? But the old days were way worse, right? We shouldn't need crying rooms. And we all got to be on the same team, and we all got to get the job done. But that doesn't mean you have to embarrass people, humiliate people. And I worked in TV, which was not nearly as bad as the movies. The movies were the worst. I mean, those powerful directors, they would chew people up and spit them out, and they would ask for the most outrageous personal things from assistants and treat them like absolute dirt. You can't find an assistant that worked in Hollywood for like a 40, 50-year stretch that wasn't 100% emotionally abused, let alone all other kinds of abuse. So old guard, you gotta change. Let's go. You're way too late to the game. And it's so ironic because it's coming from what is considered liberal Hollywood, when in reality, of course, conservatives are on the networks, conservatives are on corporations, and that's where it comes down to. And it makes it worse in media because stars are, as Sharon said, considered irreplaceable, which I don't think is true at all. But that's the culture in Hollywood and in media. So then if someone is considered to have ultimate power, well, you know how that goes. And power is abused on a regular basis. And the more power you have, unfortunately, the more people abuse it. But these aren't the old days. They better turn that ship around, or otherwise they're in a world of trouble. And the last part of it is the reason it's not among the reasons that it's not the old days is you also aren't making that much money anymore. So when you've got a toxic culture and it doesn't produce as much cash, well, I'll point this thing out. When NBC put out the statement about this, they did not mention Jimmy Fallon's name at all. And that's usually a corporate sign of a little bit of tick, 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 tick. So everybody better watch themselves there, and rightfully so. It's not too much to ask for to be decent to everyone that works with you. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.